Welcome to the Global Investor Podcast, a show that focuses on helping foreign investors enter the lucrative U.S. real estate market. Host Charles Carillo combines decades of real estate investing experience with a professional background in international banking to interview experts in all areas of U.S. real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Charles Carillo.
Welcome to another episode of the Global Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Carillo. Today, we have Whitney Sewell. Whitney is the founder of LifeBridge Capital and works with accredited investors to help improve their investment returns via multifamily syndication. He is currently invested in over 900 doors, valued at over $120 million. Whitney hosts the Real Estate Syndication Show, a daily podcast interviewing experts providing cutting-edge tools and strategies of the syndication business. He and his wife also have 2 adopted sons and a 3rd adopted child on the way, and donate up to 50% of their own profits to adoption, which is great to hear. So how are you doing today, Whitney?
Doing great. I appreciate you having me on the show, Charles. And I would say I would update that. We need to update that bio because we just brought our daughter home through adoption, our 3rd child, about a week and a half ago now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, Whitney, tell us a little background. I know you've been investing since 2009. And what did you do before real estate and what got you into real estate?
I was in the military, went overseas for a year and come home. And then I was on that hunt then of what can I do? What am I qualified to do? And law enforcement then was kind of a shoe-in, being in the military and having that experience. And so I joined Kentucky State Police and started working for them. I loved working the road as an officer, and I would have almost done it for free when I first got started, but quickly found out that there was no way to make much money being a police officer, unfortunately, and was always going to be stuck working those nights and weekends and holidays. And then got married, and first whole year of marriage, my wife and I passed each other in the hallway. And so quickly found out that, okay, this is not what's best, for our family long term. And that really put me on that hunt to looking for something else. I wasn't raised in an entrepreneurial family or real estate background, anything like that. And so I wasn't exposed to that just yet, but in came either Rich Dad Poor Dad or something like that exposed me to this possibility of real estate and all these, multimillionaires who made their wealth through real estate. I thought, okay, if these guys can do it, I can too. And so that started that real estate journey. I quickly bought a couple of triplexes in Kentucky and made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot the hard way, and a lot of sleepless nights and just working on, trying to get more tenants or working on units, whatever that was, but learned a lot. And, then that transitioned to many things, but I took a federal position, which was a big step up for most police officers. That led us to where we're at now in Virginia. But then quickly got into the syndication business after learning how we could scale that business. So we can get into that. But that's, that's initially how I was exposed to real estate and why. It was just that need of, wait a minute, I've got to find some way to make more income, and in came real estate.
Yeah, it's the lifestyle and then also the flexibility and also the income as well. So do you still own those triplexes in Kentucky?
No, we sold those when we moved to Virginia.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. So what, for your properties that you syndicate properties now, and we'll get more into that as we go, but what type of properties do you guys target now? Is it all multifamily or?
It is. We are strictly focused on multifamily, and I like being focused, in one asset class, for now anyway. And 150 plus. We'll look at anything 100 or more units, but we'd prefer 150 plus and class B plus to C plus to B minus with some type of value add.
Yeah. And what type of markets are you guys currently looking in, especially at this point in the cycle that you still see has a lot of opportunity or opportunity at all?
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities. It's, everybody sees this thing coming, right? In the market, and we feel like, it's coming. We don't know when, but, people have been saying that for years, but it's more about being prepared, for it and how you prepare, but understanding your market. But we're in Colorado Springs at the moment. We really like Colorado Springs, and we've been in Texas a little while, and which is still a great market, but we're focused. And I have a partner that's in Denver, and so we have boots on the ground there as well. And that market's growing rapidly and doing very well.
Can you talk a little bit about the Colorado Springs deal? Was that like a 506B or was that a 506C that you could talk about? Or
yeah, it was a 506B. I mean, it's closed. It's done now, So, but yeah, it was 180 units in Colorado Springs, and we It was a C plus property, and with some light value adds. That property specifically had like a 20% loss to lease. So from the current rents to the market rents, there was like 20% difference when we put that deal under contract. And then by the time we closed, we'd already closed. The units that had turned were already had gained 15% of that loss. And then and even now we've only been closed on that deal about 2 months now, and the units that are turning are $75 to $80 above what we even projected. So it's going very well. That market's doing very well. It's known as like the fourth or fifth best city to live in, and we really like it.
That's great. That's a great. Was that an on-market deal, or did you get it off-market through a broker? It
was on market. It was on market through a broker.
Colorado is such a hot market right now. There's so many different parts within it. I mean, obviously Denver just is itself, but these so many other markets within it that we've been looking at it as well. It's really great. Now, when we spoke a couple of months back, you had a potential investor that was international, since our podcast is kind of based around international investors investing in the US. And you had an issue getting him involved into one of your deals. What kind of problems did you have, and how are you working with that investor now?
Yeah, so we've had numerous investors, international investors, that have wanted to invest with us, and so it really led me to start doing some research. Right, like I want to be able to accommodate them. And at the time, from other sponsors that I'd talked to, most were like, "Oh no, it's too much of an accounting burden. It's too much of all these things. It's just better to stay away from that." But I'm like, "No, wait a minute. I feel like we can figure this out. I know there's guys who are accepting international investors, and I know there's a way that we can make this happen. We just have to figure it out, right?" And so at that time, that investor specifically, he had not invested in a syndication in the U.S. at the time, or invested in the U.S. And so, we tried to start him to, getting that U.S. entity created and some of that, and getting it funded so he can invest that way. And but he couldn't get it created in time, or the U.S. entity, and get it funded in time. So he wasn't able to invest that time, but we're hoping, he'll be prepared for the next one. But we've also had numerous conversations with different attorneys recently, and specifically asking about, structuring this. And there's numerous ways, or it sounds a couple ways it can be done. But one is that having the U.S. entity and them funding that entity, and funding your deal. And, we're trying to figure out the, confirming, do we have to hold the 30%, and when do we do that? And some of those issues that we're just not familiar with, that we're trying to confirm that we're doing it correctly from the beginning.
Yeah, there's a lot of facets to it, but it's one of those things where if they're interested in investing as an LP, or even if they're doing direct investing, they have to get that. The entity is the easiest way always of getting set up first, and then working with a CPA and of course an attorney that knows kind of how to deal with working with them, and how to deal obviously with the taxes. I had a CPA on that focused on with foreign investors, and he was saying that, I mean, even the smallest things, even if they passed away and it went in an estate, and it's much different, with federal, it's $11 million really collectively for you avoid state tax, not counting on your state. But the thing is that it's only $60,000 with international investors. So that could be one syndication with the minimum investment, which is traditionally $50,000. You could, if say, God forbid, they passed away or something like this, I mean, the burden to their family of even just trying to figure out how to will that, or how to, it has to be in a trust and all this kind of stuff now.
Yeah.
You're an expert on doing syndication, obviously, because of your show. And with hundreds of different investors that you've worked with, when someone comes to you and speaks to you, whether it's at a conference or they contact you, through your website, what mistakes do you commonly see with new investors when they start investing?
So, getting started in this industry is a massive topic. And I get questions every week. People schedule calls with me every week, and ask, well, how did you get started? How can I get started? What do I need to do? And, what if I do this? And a big thing happening right now is raising capital. Like you hear that term, capital raisers. And I'm trying to delete that from my vocabulary, that term, capital raiser. I mean, because there's so many issues with that. And even that, my partner and I have done so much due diligence recently, and paid a lot of money with big name attorneys just to confirm we're structuring deals correctly, and that there's no issues going forward. But that's a big way people get started. But one mistake, a big mistake that I see a lot of people doing, I feel is a mistake, is just like partnering with any sponsor, or just like numerous sponsors, and trying to raise capital, even if they're bringing a couple $100,000. They're just, I see their deals, they're sending them to me, and they're partnering with just numerous sponsors, and not really knowing that sponsor, doing much due diligence, And so, and what I tell people is if you are building a business and this is going to be a long-term thing, you're going to be connected to that sponsor for the life of that deal. If it's a 5-year hold, if it's 10-year, like you are going to be connected to that sponsor for that entire time. And bigger than that, these investors that you're getting started with that are trusting you are going to be connected to that sponsor as well. And so, if their communication is poor, if their track record is poor, if all these things, or, they don't know how to operate a deal, there's all these things that you need to know that they know how to do, and if they don't do those things properly, you're going to be answering those questions to your investors for the life of that deal. And it's just a hard way to get started, if you get off on the wrong step like that, or separating from that sponsor then is almost impossible for the life of that deal anyway. And so, but it can really hinder that relationship going forward to future deals with these investors who have trusted you, of course. And so, there's other things we can talk about too, just how to do that properly if you want. But that's one of the big mistakes that I see people doing now. It's not really being patient. And learning that side of the industry and really choosing wisely who they're going to partner with, and understanding really that whole mesh of how they come into the deal.
Yeah, because it's a term that's commonly thrown around. And this is something with the deal that we closed a couple of weeks ago. We had our first call with all the GPs last night. And it's now, you have to figure, it's capital raising. They throw that around all day long, but it's very important that they're actually not just managing their investors, which is a given, but it's also that they have part of the asset management and they're signing on the loan and they're fully connected to the whole deal.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you have to really 100% know your other partners, because first of all, if you're going to go in, I'm going to bring this to the table, this asset management and this money from my investors, you're doing the same thing. We're both signing on the loan. Well, you have to make sure when it comes to closing that, it's not, well, you brought in more money, you're getting more of the deal. You have to, you have to be very careful with it, because when deals go sideways, that's when all this stuff comes out, and every email you sent back between your GPs is going to come out when the LPs are looking for their money or looking for an explanation, or both.
That's right. And I'm happy to share our due diligence with people. And I answer this question it's cost us a lot of money, but I'm happy to talk to anybody, that wants to understand this better. But one thing I say is, and what we hear from attorneys all the time is if your compensation is based on how much capital you bring, then that's the wrong answer, right? But one thing I would say, a question that was asked to me and how to look at this, and I'll throw this out, is if you bring no capital to the deal, how much are you going to be paid? And if the answer is 0, then it's not legal, or it's not structured properly. And so it's just something to think about. You got to provide other value, like you talked about. You're signing on the debt, or you have some asset management experience, or there's something else as well that you can do.
So going in, using that as a forte into the next question here, with building, syndicating, with kind of growing as a team versus growing as an independent person, obviously you made the decision to partner with people to really multiply your business. What is, when doing the team building, what do you think is one of the most important parts of that? And is it kind of each partner is now focusing on a different part of the business? Obviously, we were just talking about capital raising, but there's really going to be a major person in there that's working on deal flow. There's going to be a major person on doing the marketing for the group, and kind of it all gets combined to get the deal done. So how do you think about, like, when you're looking for team members, and how did that help you grow your business to where it is now, over 1,000 units?
Yeah. So, syndication is a team sport. There's no doubt about it. If you go at this alone, you're going to be very lonely. You are. You're just not going to get near as far as fast. And so you do have to step out eventually and partner with people and find those people. But it's something that also that I took very slowly, in finding that partner that I'm really going to be married to, right? It's you're going to be very connected to this person for a very long time. And so I took that very slowly in who I was going to partner with, especially, creating our business and splitting up these tasks. But really, my partner now, and I'll just share a little story, but we met at a conference, and we were at the same table with numerous people over dinner for a couple nights in a row. And I honestly, I'd been praying about a partner for a long time, and had numerous people ask me about partnering, and really held off on that because I just didn't feel that jive. You know what I mean? I just didn't feel that there. And so, but I heard this guy talk, and I heard about his experience and things he had done in syndication already, and just his knowledge. And it was obvious he was very intelligent. And so I just approached him the last night and said, I've been praying about a partner for a long time, and you seem to fit that mold. But, and I would like to discuss that with you if that's something you're open to. And so I just took that step, saying that this is what I'm looking for. You seem to fit that, but it's no guarantees, and so that was only the very beginning of a lot of due diligence that he and I did. I went and spent time I stayed at his house with he and his family for days, just getting to know them more than anything, looking at properties together and just doing different things, but really just seeing him with his family. And we had numerous Zoom calls, my wife and he and his wife, and just asking really tough questions, for hours, just really, way outside of real estate, just very personal questions too. And, it's much deeper than real estate, when we're connected like this. And so, we want to make sure that we're aligned personally as well as professionally, and just goals with our family as much as with real estate as well. And so, it worked out very well. It's been a real blessing, and it's really helped us to move a lot faster, because now he is focused on, the asset management and the broker relations, where I'm more investor relations and marketing, and so, while he's much more of an expert in underwriting deals, but he may underwrite 50 and then say, okay, I've got a couple that we need to look at together, we'll come together and really look at those deals, or walk them together, or, while he's already done that, walked them as well. But it allows us to split those roles up so we can perform, much more professional tasks, at a professional level, because we can be focused and learn that side of the business a lot better and increase that side of the business separately. But putting us together has just really helped us to perform, at a much more professional level, for one. But then I'm not having to do everything all the time. Right. And neither is he. And so, but we have other partners as well that do lots of other things. But as far as, the core team, it's us.
Yeah, that's really important, because it's definitely on your strength. So if his strength is going through numbers, which a lot of people's not, that's not their strength. And it's also if they're able to talk, if they're introvert, extrovert, and if they want to go to all the different conferences and do all that kind of networking piece, which is a huge time commitment, obviously for, personally. And then it's just you really need to have two different people at least, plus everybody else that goes with it, because right after you close the deal is just when the work starts,
That's right. That's right. not counting the management teams and all those people, but I also use virtual assistants a lot, and I've got a stellar, just rock star virtual assistant, that has taken time, to build that relationship as well. But I encourage everybody to have a virtual assistant if you don't already.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The virtual assistant is something that it's a pain getting it started. It's like systemizing your business where you're writing down everything and it's, 1, 2, 3, 4. But once it's done and you look back after it keeps on rolling and after it's actually rolling well, and this is fantastic, because the amount of time is just taking stuff off your plate, and simple tasks are now gone, and you're really dealing with the high level kind of processes. So it's very interesting that you've really focused on syndication. I know there's not another podcast that I know of that definitely is not daily that does syndication as the core focus. So you're at 300 podcasts, I think, coming up this week, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. We're about to go. I've recorded way more than that, a lot more than that now. But probably this week we'll publish about around 300 or more.
So tell us a little bit about your show, about the guests that you have on, if someone's never heard of it or has never listened to it.
Yeah, the Real Estate Syndication Show. It is a daily show, as Charles mentioned, and we've just interviewed just all the experts in the industry, and it's been amazing for that. It's just a great networking tools. I'm sure you're experiencing as well, Charles. It just allows you to have this face-to-face time with everybody in the industry. But if you're looking for people to invest with, it's a great place for passive investors to go find that operator they're looking to invest with and listen to them on the show. Or also you can go to the website and you can search different types of things you're looking for as far as syndication, and you're going to see different shows come up where we've talked about those things, from all aspects of the business. And so I didn't, when we started, I didn't know of another syndication podcast. There's lots of real estate ones, but none that were focused on syndication. So I thought, okay, let's make this simple and let's just make it, show exactly what we're focused on, and that's our business, is the syndication model, and so that's why why not focus on it. But yeah, the show is going great, and you can hear every kind of industry leader and then some lots of people that are doing some amazing things, in this business from, every kind of commercial asset.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's when I listen to your episodes, and it's if anybody wants to learn anything about syndication or any other thing that we've been talking about in the SEC rules that are very, very confusing if you haven't heard of them a dozen or 24 times. But he always has on attorneys, he has on CPAs, other syndicators, very well-known syndicators, and so it's great if anybody's ever interested in syndication. Definitely subscribe to his podcast and also your YouTube channel too, because you do it video. Is that correct?
We do.
Okay. So yeah, awesome. And so about your company, LifeBridge, we were going through it, and you were saying that you guys focus on multifamily, obviously 150 deals plus. You're in a number of different markets. I was looking at everything from North Carolina, Colorado, Texas. And tell us about your other mission in regards, you and your wife, in regards to adoption and how that coincides with LifeBridge Capital.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking about that. I always love sharing about, our passion about helping families adopt children. And my wife and I just brought home number 3 through adoption, and it is such a roller coaster. The adoption process, it took us 2 years for this adoption process. Our first one was 2 years to the month. The second one was quite a bit faster, but still, just the adoption journey is just horrible. There's no other way to say it. They really just take advantage. So many people take advantage of you and the situation, of the adoptive family, financially and emotionally and all those things. But I like to tell people it's so worth it, when you can bring that child home. When you can bring them into your family. Our family has been extremely blessed by adoption, but because of those struggles and because of all the families that we know who would love to adopt, and when we say, it's going to, it could cost $40,000 to $60,000, they're like, well, wait a minute, Whitney, that's more than I'm making a year. How can we do that? And so that's where we want to come along beside them and say, if you will commit to this adoption process, if you'll commit to bring this child home, we want to be able to help you financially. And so we've committed, LifeBridge Capital has committed half of our profits to our nonprofit. We're in the process of getting that started at the moment, but the actual nonprofit, we have other nonprofits that we've partnered with up to this point, but committing half of our profits to helping these families. And so, we just look forward to, more children being adopted and, helping these families get through the process as well.
So you have your own nonprofit, is that correct? I didn't see it when I was looking.
Yeah, it's not, I guess, officially established. We are in the process of doing the paperwork now.
Okay, awesome. Well, let us know when you actually get that finalized. I imagine it takes some time to do that. And how long does it usually take? I haven't known too much about adoption before, and I mean, I've heard those costs before, the $40,000-$60,000, which is outrageous. But what is a time frame on something like that where you made the decision and then till it happens?
Yeah, you're looking 1 to 2 years most of the time. Like I said, 2 of ours were 2 years long, the adoption process. Our second was only about 9 months, which is kind of unusual. But yeah, it's a very long process.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. It's always great to have a cause and give back with one way or another with your business and also personally. So, well, Whitney, I really appreciate you being on the show today. And what I will do is all the links to LifeBridge and information on Whitney, I will put into the show notes, and people can get in touch with you. Is there other way? I have the LifeBridge Capital website. Is there any other way or is that the best way for people to reach? No,
you can obviously contact us on the website, lifebridgecapital.com. You can email me, whitney@lifebridgecapital.com. You can also call or text me, 540-585-4338.
Okay. I will put all that information into the notes for anybody. And that's great. Well, thank you very much and have a great rest of your week.
My pleasure. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Global Investor Podcast. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to get new weekly episodes. For more resources and to receive our newsletter, please visit globalinvestorpodcast.com. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
Nothing in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure, subscription documentation, and are subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Harborside Partners Incorporated exclusively.